Bitcoin is a new global reserve asset. It will surpass gold. So take that as take-home values from this talk. One thing, Bitcoin will be more valuable than gold shortly. Now, today, at $105,000 per Bitcoin, the 2 billion, the 20 million Bitcoins that are out there, well, they're worth, 2 point something trillion. Mm-hmm. Gold is worth like 16 trillion. So Bitcoin should go up at least 8 times to equate the storehouse or the value storage capacity of gold. And I have no doubts that it will happen very shortly. I mean, I wouldn't say when, but if you look at any trend, gold, in terms of Bitcoin, the trend is going down, and it's so easy to see,
Welcome back to the channel. You just saw that clip. That was Ricardo Salinas, and he's telling you that he believes that Bitcoin will be going 8x to $1 million very soon. Ricardo is one of the richest men in Mexico. So in today's video, we're going to be getting into strategy, into Bitcoin. Going to be talking a little bit about MNAV in today's video. The compression of the MSTR MNAV is what everybody's been talking about in the microstrategy space. And I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. As you can see right now, when you look at the market cap compared to the amount of Bitcoin that they hold, the MNAV, the multiple to the net asset value, is only a 1.19x. So it's come down a massive amount. Last year in November, we saw around a 3x MNAV. And it kind of makes some sense if you think about it in context of where Bitcoin is in the cycle. A lot of people believe that Bitcoin will be peaking this month, next month, or in December, sometime in Q3. There's a lot of people that believe in the 4-year Bitcoin cycle. So if you're forward looking a year out, Bitcoin's price could be lower than where it is today. And Strategy's MNAV may be looking at that and incorporating that into the share price there. And then looking at another chart here, you can see this is the quarterly MNAV for Strategy. And as you can see, since 2020, it is the lowest that's been at around 1.38x. This is averaged for the quarter. So this could either be a really massive buying opportunity or a trend of what is to come for Strategy and the rest of these other Bitcoin treasury companies. And I think another thing, just not with the forward-looking Bitcoin price, I think another thing here is that a lot of people have lost confidence, lost faith in these Bitcoin treasury companies. A lot of these smaller ones had massive MNAVs at 10, 9, 5x MNAV, and now those have come down to even close to 1 or even below 1, depending on the company that you're looking at. So MNAVs are still all over the board, but they have definitely compressed quite a bit. But for Strategy, I believe that what's happening here, I think a lot of people aren't really considering how powerful their preferreds are going to be for them and how they'll be able to raise money in the future to be able to buy more Bitcoin. I believe in the future that's going to be their biggest driver of BTC, especially STRC. This product was just launched a couple months ago, and they're paying monthly dividends at around a 10% clip right now. It's around 10.25%. They're trying to keep STRC around $99 to $101, and they want to pay out 10%, basically stripping off the performance from Bitcoin, a 30 CAGR that Saylor believes that we'll have over the next 21 years, and give it to the STRC holders at around a 10.25% dividend, and then essentially profiting that difference in Bitcoin because you get a 20% year-over-year CAGR difference. So that definitely adds up over time. And I think as these preferreds start to get more credibility, as the years go on and people say that they're very stable and they perform very well, this could bring a lot of new money into the door for a Strategy to perform very well in terms of the stock price and for them to be able to get more Bitcoin. Now, what does that mean for MNAV going forward? I'm not exactly sure, but if we check out Strategy right now, there's around a $14 billion delta in their market cap versus their Bitcoin MNAV. Their MNAV they use here, they look at the enterprise value, but just looking at the Bitcoin, they have around 80 billion. Market cap's around 94 billion. So there's around a $14 billion spread there. Now, a strategy's MNAV grows, and it grows to potentially $500 billion or $1 trillion. What is that spread going to be? Is it still going to be 14 billion? Or if they have $1 trillion worth of Bitcoin, is their market cap going to be worth 2 trillion? That's yet to be seen. Nobody really knows how all that's going to play out, but I believe a driver in NAV, in Bitcoin NAV, I think is going to be STRC. I think that's going to be one of their biggest products. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about MNAV in the comments section below, and understand that STRC is targeting the $300 trillion global bond market. So even if Saylor is able to get 1% of that, that's $3 trillion that would flow into these preferred products, and then he'd be able to use that $3 trillion to buy Bitcoin. So put that in perspective. If he has $3 trillion of Bitcoin at net asset value, you can do your own calculations on where you believe NAV will go. But you can see, even if it's a 1.5x MNAV with $3 trillion of Bitcoin, that the market cap is going to be a lot higher than where it is today. That's around a 40x. So that's something to think about there for strategy. And personally, I believe that strategy is going to be one of the only companies that's going to be able to do this with these preferred products. I don't think a lot of these smaller Bitcoin treasuries, they may not be able to get these preferreds out like how strategy is doing. I think that there are some exceptions like Metaplanet. They have a pretty big treasury. I think they'll definitely be able to do it in Japan. But a lot of these smaller companies that only have 1,000, 2,000 Bitcoin, they may not be able to do it on the scale that strategy is doing it right now. And all this is good for Bitcoin. But I think what happened early with these Bitcoin treasury companies, what we saw early on was just a company would announce that they're buying Bitcoin, not even having bought Bitcoin yet, and the stock would just go up as people were anticipating that the company was going to buy Bitcoin. And the second phase was when companies were announcing that they're going to buy Bitcoin, the stock didn't move because they hadn't bought the Bitcoin yet. And then what actually moved the stock to go up was actually buying Bitcoin and putting it on the balance sheet. But now what we're seeing is, even if you have Bitcoin on the balance sheet, that doesn't mean that your company is even going to trade at net asset value. A lot of these smaller companies are trading below their net asset value. So you can look at that as maybe a buy the dip opportunity or a trend to come. Nobody really knows. In this Bitcoin treasury space is still very, very early, and things will definitely change as time progresses. But also looking at this here, this is really interesting. Strategies, Bitcoin holdings versus the Bitcoin corporate treasuries. Right now, they're at number 5, and they're only $18 billion away from being the second biggest corporate treasury in the United States, right behind Berkshire Hathaway. So strategy is going to continue to climb this list, and they'll be number 1, in my opinion, definitely over the next 5 years, especially if Bitcoin goes to that $1 million mark. They won't even have to add any more Bitcoin to get the number 1 spot. So just imagine what strategy will be able to do if they have $800 billion of capital on their balance sheet. They could do a lot with that. They could even buy businesses. So it's really going to be interesting to see how all this plays out with the Bitcoin treasury strategy and all these companies, because even when Saylor started this back in 2020, it looks completely different than what they're doing today. And it's going to continue to evolve, and the market will continue to change and adapt to these Bitcoin treasury companies. So if you believe in the long-term vision of what Saylor is trying to do, it could be a great buy the dip opportunity, as the MNAV has compressed quite a bit here. And then looking at the Bitcoin ETFs, we had a massive day yesterday. $900 million coming in from IBIT, and around an $875 million inflow to the Bitcoin ETFs. And what's really interesting, we had an $875 million inflow to the ETFs, and then Bitcoin traded down. So I think what happened there, a lot of leverage might have got wiped out, and I think maybe there was some manipulation. I think Bitcoin's definitely going to get back up to where it was before Tuesday, but right now it's looking like, from the Bitcoin ETF lens, this may be the best week ever if we continue these numbers that we've been getting over the past 2 days. We may do $4 or $5 billion if we can get $1 billion a day, like what we've been seeing for the first 2 days of the week. And that's going to be huge for Bitcoin price. And understand there's not a lot of Bitcoin to go around for everybody. So if this keeps up, Bitcoin's price will explode, and it's going to continue to go up until the supply meets the demand that we're seeing right now. And I'm not saying we're going to get $1 billion every day, but if we continue to see $1 billion a day, Bitcoin's price is definitely going to be going up here over the next couple of months. And let's get into some of the Bitcoin treasuries. We can see here DDC Bitcoin They are doing a $124 million equity raise to buy Bitcoin. So they're going to be buying a lot more Bitcoin than they have right now. So that's good to see from DDC. They are a Chinese company, I believe. And then you have LibWork JP. They acquired another 30 Bitcoin for around 500 million yen. Another Bitcoin company buying more BTC. SmartWeb company, they got another 25 Bitcoin. They're up to 2,550 BTC. And then Orange Bitcoin, they acquired another 25 Bitcoin, and now they hold 3,675 BTC. So a lot of companies continuing to buy Bitcoin, even though these MNAVs are coming down a bit, they're still trying to raise funds to buy BTC. And then you can see here some of the MNAVs versus some of the Bitcoin treasury companies. And what's really interesting here, I'm not familiar with what all these companies do here, but if you look at the top of this list, you have K33. We actually had the CEO of K33 on our channel a couple of months ago, and you can see their Bitcoin yield today is pretty high, but also why K33 is probably trading at a pretty high MNAV values, because they're not really hitting the ATM too much, and they have a underlying business. And I think that may be what is needed in the future for these companies. They actually need an underlying business that is generating income, that is generating profit, to be able to use that cash flow to buy Bitcoin. And I think that's why we see K33 have such a huge MNAV there. And then Riot is a Bitcoin miner. And I don't know all Riot's numbers, but maybe that's why their MNAV is so high. And as you can see right here, their Bitcoin yield today is not even that impressive compared to some of these other companies. So I think the market right now is pricing in these Bitcoin treasury companies that are literally just buying Bitcoin, not doing much else, and lowering those MNAVs in the companies that have an actual operating business that is, generating revenue and cash flows. I think those may be being valued higher in terms of MNAV, as you can see right here. But it's painting a pretty interesting picture because all this is still very early, and it's going to be interesting to see if these companies continue to decrease in MNAV and some of these companies go down to like a 0.3 MNAV. Would a company like Metaplanet or Strategy come in and try to acquire some of these companies, because you could get the Bitcoin they own for a major discount? And I know Strategy has came out and said that they're not interested in acquiring other businesses, but maybe some of these other Bitcoin treasury companies are interested in acquiring some of these other Bitcoin treasuries that are trading below net asset value. So thank you for watching all the way to the end. I hope you found some value. If you did, hit that like button. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. My name is Aaron from the Bitcoin Bros. I'm out. See you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.